Hey friend, in this video, I'm going to be sharing with you the do's and the don'ts of cleaning your watercolor brushes. This is a very popular question for people who are just starting out with watercolor, or maybe they're noticing that their brushes aren't lasting very long or they're being damaged, all of that kind of stuff. I even see with people who are more advanced painters doing some of these don't things that I'm going to mention in this video. So if you'd like to find out how to take care of your brushes so that they last you many years, then let's dive in. My first don't of brush tips is never ever leave your brush tip or hair down in your cup of water or on any surface tip down. You just can't stand your brush up on a table. That would be magical. But never leave your brush tip down in a water cup. Reason for this is, obviously, if it's only going to be in there for like a few seconds, that should be fine. But reason for this is you never want to smash the hair of your brush like this, because then it's going to damage the form of the brush, especially if you're using something other than like a scrubber brush. That's okay if it gets a little frayed and damaged, but your round brushes, your flat brushes, everything, especially if it comes to a specific shape or form like your round brushes, you want to make sure that you're always laying it horizontal and flat when it's not in use. And we'll talk about why horizontal and not upright like this in a cup in a second. So instead of leaving your brush in your water cup when you're not using it, tip down like this or hair down like this, just lay it flat on your paper towel or on your desk while you're not using it. Maybe you're using another brush, or you went to the bathroom quick, or went to go get a snack. Just leave it flat on your table, so therefore you won't damage the hair of the brush. My second don't ever do this tip. Obviously we get lazy. Obviously we all make mistakes. So I'm not gonna, come over there and smack your wrist. Is that too aggressive? You get the point. My second don't is to, when you are going to, let's say, wash your brush off in your water cup, try not to get the ferrule, which is this metal piece of the brush, too far submerged into the water. The reason for this is a wooden handle for these Princeton Heritage brushes. There are some plastic handle ones. Most brushes are wooden though. This is the ferrule. And inside of the ferrule, there is glue, and that glue obviously holds on to the wood part of the handle, but also holds the hair of the brush. And if you leave your ferrule soaked in water for too long, the glue is going to loosen, and therefore you're going to get a lot of hairs that start to get loosened up and will flop. Some of that hair will get really loose and it will start to fall off into your painting. And if this has ever happened to you, it's really annoying to have to like pinch like a little tiny hermit crab, pinch the hair out of your painting, and it's a mess. It gets messy. It ruins your painting sometimes. Sometimes you don't even notice it and the hair dries in your painting and you're like, well, crap. So just try to avoid getting this ferrule part too wet for too long, because it will damage the glue and loosen the hair of your brush, and it will start to fall out, which is sad. My third don't is going to be, whenever you do end up needing to wash your brushes, which, big tip, always wash your brush after you're done using your brush. So if you're done painting for the day or painting for a few hours or whatever, you want to make sure that you wash the hair of your brush. If pigment gets stuck in there and it hardens and all of that, that's another way of wearing down the hair of your brush, and it also messes with the form of the brush. It makes it go frayed and all of this crusty, annoying stuff. So you want to make sure that you do clean your brush after each use. And I'm going to show you exactly how I clean my brushes after each use in a second. But whenever you are done with washing your brush, you want to make sure that it's never drying up like this. So a lot of painters have cups for their brushes on their desk or whatever. It looks super cute and pretty. I have them myself on my desk, but I make sure that my brush is completely dry before I put it in my cup tip up like this. Because if I do that while it's still damp or while it's still wet, that water will start to get into the glue and into the ferrule of the brush, which, like I mentioned in the previous tip, will start to loosen that glue and the hair will start to fall out, and that's annoying. So don't store your brushes upright while it's still wet. Just lay it on your table horizontally so it can dry. And then when it's dry, you can put it in your cute little cup on your desk. Another little bonus that I see a lot of people do when they're traveling with their brushes is they just kind of throw them in a pencil case or a brush case that is a little too small or it isn't protective. So if you have brand new brushes, I highly recommend keeping these plastic covers that go around the hair of your brush so that if you do plan on traveling with your brushes, you can throw this little plastic cover on around your brush once it's completely dry. You don't want to put that on when it's wet because it'll start to get moldy in the ferrule of the brush if that case or this plastic part is left on for too long. So if you're traveling with your brushes, I highly recommend saving these plastic pieces that you get when you get brand new brushes so that it doesn't, if you have it in a pencil case so it doesn't like jam up and move around and jam up against the hair of the brush and start to damage the form and shape of the brush. So make sure you put those on before. If not, there are amazing brush cases out there that have actual holders for your brushes so they won't move around and they keep them flat. So check out one of those holders or make sure you keep those plastic covers to prevent it from getting damaged when you pack them up and go paint outside or pack them up to go travel and paint somewhere. Next, I'm going to show you how I wash or clean my brushes. So when I am ready to wash my brushes off, I want to make sure I get off most of the paint from my brush by just wiping it on my paper towel, by my palette or wherever my paper towel is. And then I just use a cup of water. Some painters use, soap and run it under the faucet in a sink. But I don't, and they've managed to live with me for multiple years and survive. And so I know a lot of illustrators do this as well, or other artists do this as well. So I just wash it off until I get all of the pigment off. I don't smash my brush at the bottom of the cup too much because again, you don't want to smash it and damage the hair of the brush. But because the hair in most watercolor brushes are really flexible, it should be fine with a couple smashes. And then again, making sure that I'm not submerging the ferrule of my brush too long. So it can go down there and it's going to be totally fine, but I don't want it to, be like this for a few minutes. So I'm just going to wash it off until it gets totally clean and swipe off on the edge of my cup to get rid of any droplets. And then I'm going to dry it off on my paper towel so that it's just damp, and I'm rolling it instead of dabbing or pushing because I want to tuck all of any stray hairs that maybe are a little damaged or I was being kind of rough with my paintbrush while I was painting. So I'm just kind of rolling it so it tucks those stray hairs in and starts to really form or bring that brush back to the original form. Then I take my thumb and my index finger and I just bring it back to that point that the way it looked when you first bought the brush. Because if we just let it dry, it might dry crooked, it might dry, kind of bent a little bit. So this is just ensuring that when we go to use it tomorrow or in a few hours, that it's got its nice fine point and it's ready to be painted with. And then again, like I mentioned earlier, we're gonna lay it flat on our table before having it sit upright like this because we don't want the water to soak down into the glue inside of our ferrule, which damages the hair and the ferrule of the brush. One other bonus tip. So let's say you have a brush that has frayed hairs kind of spraying all over the place like this. Maybe you left it for too long in your water cup upside down, or you just didn't know how to take care of your brushes. You can potentially save it if you get boiling hot water and you roll your brush or you dip your damaged brush in the boiling hot water, and then you do exactly what I showed you for forming the brush back. It doesn't save every single brush, but it has the potential to save your brush, so definitely try that. And if your hairs are starting to fall out, that's when I would kind of move on to another brush, maybe buy another brush, because that just gets really annoying. That means that the glue inside of the ferrule is damaged and you can't literally take the ferrule off and put more glue in there unless you really got crazy with it. So that's when I'd recommend getting a new brush. But if it's just like one little stray hair or a couple stray hairs and it's not a full just spray brush, You could very, very carefully and delicately try saving it by just clipping that one little hair out. That's not my favorite thing to do. I usually just buy a new brush and use a frayed or damaged brush like this for any sort of like rough texture that I'm adding to a landscape or some bushes or something like that. So they are still usable, but they just won't be able to be used for things that you loved them for, like leaves and petals and all that kind of stuff. So you want to make sure that you clean your brushes properly, you store them properly, you're forming them back to their original shape after each use, and you're cleaning them after each use. I hope that video was helpful in showing you the do's and don'ts. Let me know what you were doing let me know in the comments below what tip you found the most helpful, or maybe you were doing something that you totally didn't think was harming your brushes that I showed you was potentially harming your brushes. Let me know in the comments below, and keep in mind that I've had these brushes for about 8 years now. If you take good care of your brushes, if you clean them properly and avoid those dumps that I showed you, you could have them for a very long time. So you will spend the money up front, but they should last you many, many years. So take good care of your brushes, clean them properly. If you want to check out what brushes I use and what I recommend, we have a video where I show you exactly what I use, why I use it, my favorite things about them, and also include the links to those brushes if you want to buy them for yourself. Make sure you check it out, and I'll see you in the next video.